Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with the man himself, Matt Reilly. Matt, how are you?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Just trying to stay out of trouble. You just had a big birthday.
I did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, one of the ones divisible by 10, so that's super cool, but you don't want to talk about it, so we'll shift to the fishing. So we're kind of in this interesting kind of funky transition in the mid-Atlantic, although, we talked before we started recording that I think we're finally on a more sustained upward trend in temperatures, even though things have been bouncing around, and I think that probably means for you, right, winding down musky, turning on pre-spawn, smallmouth, but we've got a couple other things that you're into that we want to talk about too.
Yeah, just about. I mean, we've just in the last couple weeks had a lot of snowmelt enter the river. Water temperatures took a nosedive, but we've had some 60, 70 degree highs since then. Gotten a healthy amount of rain. Water temperatures are, certainly north of 40 most places, and in some places, upper 40s. And we've got, I don't know, at least, most of the 10-day forecast is going to be, highs in the 60s and 70s, even close to 80. So I think things are going to start to slide pretty quick. I've got 2 more musky trips to knock out, and then it's just going to be kind of laying the foundation a couple of days for the rest of the month smallmouth fishing and then getting on that train.
Yeah, so you're going to be finding them, I guess, in that nice slow water, right?
Yeah, I mean, it for the most part, if we're in the kind of mid to upper 40s, which is where I really, kind of like to start. Like if we're, maybe low to mid 40s in the morning, but that mid to upper 40s range, they should be sort of staging to break out of those winter areas. So you'll find them in, kind of the upper ends of those winter pools, the lower ends, tail outs. And, once it starts to warm up past that and certainly get into 50, they'll just kind of spread out throughout the river and start feeding. And one thing that is sort of important to pay attention to that I sometimes miss, if we have some of these real warm days this time of year, is some rivers might get some water temps up in like the low to mid 50s if it's really, really warm in late February. We haven't had too much of that. But once those water temps get out, you'll have fish spread out throughout the river, and usually in those years it'll get cold again, and you'll be fishing some mid 40 degree temps in March, and you're looking at the water temp thinking, well, they should be here, but 2 weeks ago it was 52, 53 degrees, and they've already moved. So history is important. That's where if you fish smallmouth all winter, you have a pretty big advantage in that regard, because you can kind of follow them from meat of winter spots to the staging edges, and then you'll notice pretty quick if they move. So that's something to be paying attention to this time of year if you're just getting back to them.
Got it. And so, where's kind of that temperature that you kind of cross over from kind of having to pry them out off the bottom, or they're not really chasey, to where they kind of really start? Because I know you love the streamer game, right? Where they really start chasing stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, 50 degrees is plenty. Even those mid 40s temps, if you can fish slow and you can get flies, or lures, mid column, or maybe even a little bit deeper, just long pauses and lots of suspension, that can work, pretty well too. You don't necessarily have to go, to something with dumbbell eyes bouncing on the bottom, straight to an active streamer retrieve. But that certainly that kind of upper 40s through 50, once I'm seeing 50 in the morning, I have, no fear that I'll be able to catch them on a baitfish mid column type streamer. And usually that's, just because of what's fun and what I want to do and how limited the time window is, I'm usually going to commit myself to that unless it's really, really obvious that that's not going to work.
Got it. And, as we mentioned before we started recording, you've got a couple other things folks should know about, right? So I don't think there are any cicadas this year, right?
There are not. No, this is the only year in the next 13 that there's not a brood anywhere.
Yeah.
And then we'll have some pretty interesting years after that.
Yeah. So I know you'll do pre-spawn smallmouth, and I just saw your email for the striper run. Do you want to let folks know about that? But I also got another email from you. I saw you're really kind of opening up. There was all that. This when it was cold and you weren't fishing, so you were tying flies and doing customer emails. But then I also saw you've really kind of opened up your Mount Rogers program too.
Yeah, man. I had a lot of email campaigns queued up and scheduled there for a little while. But yeah, it's I mean, springtime, there's just a ton going on this time of year. We've got like I said, I'm gonna get on smallmouth here in the next couple of days and then pretty much ride that through mid-April and then striper fish hopefully until mid-May. It's always just kind of a wait and see thing because, stripers can be here one day and gone the next. And if they're gone, you can't catch them. So you got to stay on top of that. But, and then, pretty much, I mean, late February through, summers is pretty fantastic fishing in the mountains too. And I've got, a couple of associates that I've been working with pretty closely that have been taking a lot of folks in the mountains trout fishing the last couple of months. And it's I was talking to a lot of the folks up in Cincinnati at that show last month. It's pretty great fishing that nobody really does around here just because we've got two big tailwaters and there's the Smoky Mountains are not that far away. So lots of folks come down to this region to fish for wild trout, but don't necessarily end up in Southwest Virginia. And it can be pretty good. And I get a lot of requests for it. Personally, I just have been doing fewer and fewer of those trips. So I've got a couple of guys that frankly are better than me at it that I've been handed all my folks to. So that's been pretty exciting the last couple months to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email me or DM me on social media, whatever is easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some stickers and we're in a drawing for some cool stuff from Matt at the end of the season. And, Matt, before I let you go, you want to let folks know kind of how to get in touch. And, I know things are kind of always in a state of flux, kind of moving around. So there are cancellations, how to kind of keep their eye open if they can maybe sneak in a smallmouth date that they weren't able to book 6 months ago.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my information's on the website. It's mattreillyflyfishing.com. And, as you know, I pretty much send a newsletter out every month with kind of, monthly fishing report, what's coming up, forecast kind of deal, and then upcoming programs. I usually try to include some tying stuff and anything that's kind of tip and tactic that's seasonally relevant. So feel free to check that out too. But and you'll see a lot of my open dates there too. But pretty much got just a couple of March and early April smallmouth days, a couple of striper slots, and then we're just looking at post spawn everything. There's some musky fishing to be done in May, early June. And then we're, for the most part, just smallmouth fishing this year until, October or so with no cicadas, which I don't want to say I'm thankful for, but it'll be nice to have a little bit of a break from running around this year after the last several.
Yeah, not having to dial in the hatch and then find an Airbnb close by, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. And so I would imagine on the smallmouth side, you're probably kind of in the prime topwater months, probably pretty full. But what does your backside smallie calendar look like this season?
You mean getting into the fall?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that I always those first couple weeks of October are usually always my last to book, and I don't really push them that hard because, frankly, I usually end up having to reschedule some dates into that window. But it's pretty open at the moment. I think I have 3 or 4 days booked. I do have some stuff still, just here and there in like June and July. I've had a couple of days in August and September cancel that have come open, just, canceled in the last couple of weeks that were booked months ago. So yeah, it's always changing. That's why I always tell people if they're interested in something, just to get in touch with me. And that way I at least know you're interested and we can try our best to make it happen.
Yeah. Get in there before it shows up in a newsletter blast for an empty day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Too early to get you a 2027 musky deposit?
Probably. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, listen, folks, it's warming up in our neck of the woods. If it's warm enough to go out and fish, you should get out there and catch a few. Otherwise, tie some flies. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.